Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Veenu Sandhu. It's 18th August 2023 and here are the questions we will be answering today. What made Bindeshwar Pathak Sulabh so important? What's holding Indian women back? Will an erratic monsoon halt the rally in tractor stocks? And what is a developed country? He devoted his life to eradicating manual scavenging, built over 10,000 toilets so that millions have access to clean sanitation. And it was no coincidence that the last thing that Bindeshwar Pathak did before breathing his last was to hoist the national flag. He died at the age of 80 on Independence Day, leaving behind a rich legacy. Tariq Ahmed explores its significance.
Over a decade ago, in 2012, when Jairam Ramesh was being slammed by BJP and even Congress had distanced itself from his controversial remark that India had more temples than toilets, he got support from an unlikely corner. Sulabh International founder Bindeshwar Pathak came forward and called Ramesh's statement factually correct and said it should be treated as an effort to motivate people against open defecation. A pioneer of public toilets in India, Pathak spearheaded a movement against open defecation and ensured access to clean toilets to millions much before the Swachh Bharat mission was even thought of. And he braved a number of odds, including on personal front. In an interview, Pathak once recalled that his father-in-law felt his daughter's life was ruined as he cannot tell anyone what his son-in-law did for a living. Born in a Brahmin family in Rampur Baghel village of Bihar's Vaishali district, Pathak graduated in sociology from Patna University. But the turning point in Pathak's life came when he joined the Bihar Gandhi Centenary Committee as a volunteer. There he was asked to work for restoration of human rights and dignity of untouchables and sent to Betia. Condition of this community moved Pathak, and there was no turning back. Pathak embarked on a mission to liberate the manual scavengers from their inhumane occupation, and the way out was to replace the dry toilets. In 1968, Pathak started the two-pit pole flush toilet technology, named as Sulabh. But there were the usual smirks and suspicion. Pathak's project was yet to take off as there was no taker or funding. But in 1973, a letter by a Bihar MLA to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi about the scourge of manual scavenging put his dream project on the runway. Gandhi replied and the local government started paying attention to the liberation of scavengers. And a major breakthrough came when an officer at Aram municipality of Bihar gave 500 rupees to Pathak for building 2 toilets for demonstration. Impressed by the toilets, Aram municipality gave permission for the wider implementation, and Pathak went from door to door to convince the people to replace the bucket latrines with new toilets. The project was a success and Pathak repeated the same in Buxar and in Patna. In 1974, Bihar government sent a circular to all the local bodies to take the help of Sulabh for replacing bucket latrines to two-pit pole flush toilets of Sulabh. In the same year, Pathak introduced pay and use of public toilets in Bihar. Though it was a new concept in India, it was well received, and by 1980, 25,000 people were using the Sulabh public toilets in Patna alone. Now there are over 9,000 Sulabh toilets spread across 1,600 towns across the country. In FY 2020, Sulabh reported a turnover of 490 crore rupees.
Bindeshwari Pathak was a man, he was clearly a visionary, and the nation will clearly miss somebody like him. He gave dignity to something which was very basic to most humans. And he gave dignity to the most marginalized people of society by giving them access to clean public conveniences. So to me, it was not about building toilets, but it was about giving dignity to people in urban India to be able to carry out their basic bodily functions in a clean and in a sanitary environment. That is why what he did was absolutely so praiseworthy, and he was a hero. He was a hero of modern India.
However, UNICEF's and WHO's joint monitoring program reports suggest that India's position in sanitization has improved considerably between 2015 and 2022. 41% of the rural population used to defecate in the open in 2015, but in 2022, it was reduced to 17%. Also, the basic sanitization facility situation has got better. The number of rural households with toilets has increased from 51% in 2015 to 75% in 2022. So how far the Sulabh and Swachh Bharat mission brought us?
The mass level work is done. I think what now needs to happen is the micro level work. Because because in most states, right, the major areas will already be covered with functional toilets and with people using them, because as you rightly said, 83% are already using toilets, right? The problem is with the 17%, and this 17% will be in pockets. In every state there will be a few pockets, or in every city there will be a few pockets. The idea now is that from the mass level, the program must shift to the micro level. And at the micro level, people must identify which are the areas, and in those areas, identify which of these two causes are preventing ODF. Is it the fact that the toilets are not working, or is it the fact that there is a cultural issue? And then it must be tackled at that level.
Experts believe that the large-scale penetration of toilets has happened in India except in a few places. Making the existing toilets functioning with proper maintenance and breaking cultural barriers to encourage people to use toilets are the priority now. Pathak's legacy will certainly live on. He was a trailblazer who ensured dignity to millions.
But over 21% of rural families in India still do not have access to any kind of toilet facility. This was revealed by the National Statistical Office in March this year, and it is the women who suffer the most. An analysis of government data reveals that a yawning gender gap still haunts the country. So, what is holding Indian women back? Ayush Mishra crunches the data and speaks to experts for the answer.
देश में आगे बढ़ाने के लिए एक अतिरिक्त शक्ति का सामर्थ्य भारत को आगे ले जाने वाला है, और वो है विमेन लेड डेवलपमेंट.
That was Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterating the need to empower India's women during his Independence Day speech from the ramparts of the Red Fort. But gender disparity at workplace continues to be a problem for the country. Women workforce participation remains remarkably low in India despite progress in various sectors. Latest data from the Centre of Monitoring Indian Economy, or CMIE, shows India's labour force participation rate, or LFPR, fell to 39.5% in the financial year 2022-23. The LFPR for men stood at 66%, while that of women was at 8.8%. Various indicators also suggest that women are less likely to be taught to read and write and to secure employment in India. Talking to Business Standard, economist Jayati Ghosh believes the country is facing a women empowerment crisis for unrecognized labour and inadequate measures from the government.
The way the Indian economy has grown in the last 2 or 3 decades, it has grown on the backs of the unpaid labour of women. So it's not true that women in India are not working. It's just that their work is not recognized. They are working in a lot of economic activities, in care work within the home and within communities, but also in jobs like fetching fuel wood, fetching water, kitchen gardening, poultry raising, looking after the children's education, and all kinds of other work. These are not counted as employment because our labor force statistics, we only look at those who get some money, some remuneration for their work. So one of the things that's holding Indian women back is the fact that we still have a very strongly patriarchal system in which women are forced to do a lot of the care work within households and communities, but also that in the job market, they get rationed out of jobs.
Since independence, the disparity was evident from the lower female literacy rate, which was less than 10% for women in 1951. This increased to 71.5% during 2019-2021, but the corresponding figure for men rose from 27.15% in 1951 to 84.4% during 2019-21. An analysis of government data points at deep-rooted traditional gender roles that continue to shape societal expectations, often discouraging women from pursuing careers outside the home. How can the situation of women improve?
I think every stakeholder has to come together. It's not something that, like a switch of a button, the problem can be solved. I think society needs to do a better job in terms of recognizing and acknowledging the role women can play being at formal workplaces. The rules and regulations need to be accommodative to encourage women to come back to workforce, make workplaces safer, equitable, equal. There has to be parity of all kinds. And thirdly, women themselves have to take better initiative to kind of fight against all odds and stay invested in the formal workplace.
Also, women could avail fewer opportunities than men if one includes all forms of employment. The female labor force participation rate, which measures the share of women working or available for work, is 24% as on 2022. This is lower than its South Asian neighbors like Pakistan at 24.6% and Bangladesh at 37.7%. It is also lower than Brazil, Russia, and China, its BRICS peers, which have a female labor force participation rate of over 50%.
In most countries of the world, women's workforce participation has gone up with proactive measures, particularly for public services, spending much more on public services. So the East and Southeast Asian countries where you have very high women's workforce participation also have very high spending on health and education. And then that enables more women to go out for other work. And it also enables them to participate in other manufacturing employment and other services employment. So that is a precondition, and we have to learn from the successful Asian countries how to do this.
Access to information also remains limited among women. According to a 2019-21 government survey, only 33% of women have used the internet. Thus, unlocking the potential of Indian women in the workforce will require a multifaceted approach that addresses societal attitudes, educational barriers, inclusive workplaces, and ecosystem service.
The gender gap is more prominent in rural areas. Speaking of villages, a good monsoon and improvement in kharif sowing has led to a rise in tractor sales. Stocks of tractor makers have been on an upward trend over the last few weeks. However, as the southwest monsoon looks to retreat and a spell of dry weather in some parts threatens to hit crops, will the stocks be able to hold on to the gains? Lovisha Darad finds out in our next report.
Shares of tractor manufacturers have been in the fast lane recently, outperforming the markets in the past month. Related stocks like Mahindra & Mahindra, Escorts Kubota, and VST tillers surged up to 14% in the last month as against a 0.7% fall in the Sensex. The gains were driven by the improved tractor sales and better margins due to a pickup in monsoon.
Escorts, Kubota, and M&M has been driven by the strong EBITDA margin performance during the results. The strong EBITDA margin performance has been led by lower input costs and price hikes. Also, the pickup of monsoon in month of July has led to better sowing activities.
In July, tractor retail sales registered a 21% jump on a year-on-year basis as per data from FADA. However, it was 8% lower sequentially due to delayed monsoon activities. The southwest monsoon has been 3% below the long period average so far over the last year, suggested a report by Bank of Baroda Capital Markets. While parts of northern and central India have received normal rainfall in June and August, some states in the southern, east, and northeastern regions have remained in the deficit zone. Analysts therefore believe the ongoing rally in the stocks may face headwinds in the near term due to the spatial distribution of monsoon.
The initial monsoon phase was very good. June and July beginning was good. So that is why it may have prompted a lot of buying in tractors. Later in the season, there is a worry about El Nino pattern, and last 15 days have been relatively dry. So the impact of that, we'll have to wait till the September end as to whether there is a revival in the monsoon and to what extent there is a revival. So there may be some hiccups, maybe for a month or a quarter, in case there is a below normal rainfall from now till September.
However, from a long-term perspective, analysts are optimistic on the structural growth story of this segment, which they believe will remain buoyant on measures such as the recent increase in the minimum support price of food grains. Moreover, improved spread of the monsoon and consumer credit availability will further support the outlook. On Friday, August 18, global cues, foreign flows, and crude oil prices will dictate equity market trends.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Indian financial markets, meanwhile, are no longer what some experts used to describe as the outpost of developed markets. They now remain resilient despite sharp corrections across the globe. The rise of domestic investors is one of the reasons. Meanwhile, during his 10th Independence Day speech, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India will be a developed country by 2047. Now, how does one define a developed country and where does India stand? Raghav Agarwal does a reality check.
A developed country boasts of a mature and sophisticated economy. They may not have a high rate of growth at present, but must have shown rapid growth in the past. Developed countries have advanced technological infrastructure and diverse industrial and service sectors. Their citizens enjoy access to quality healthcare and higher education. There are several factors that are considered to determine if a country is developed or not. The economic factors include per capita income, level of industrialization, general standard of living, and technological infrastructure. The non-economic factor includes the Human Development Index, which measures several parameters like levels of education, health, and literacy. The main benchmark that is used to determine the level of development of an economy is per capita income. It is generally derived by dividing the gross domestic product of a country by its total population. It roughly shows how much a citizen of that country is likely to earn in a year. Some economists consider $12,000 to $15,000 per capita income to be sufficient for developed status. Others, however, consider a country to be developed if its per capita income is above $25,000 or $30,000. According to the World Bank, India's per capita income is around $2,400, while USA's per capita income is $76,400 and China's $12,700. For countries that are difficult to categorize according to per capita income, economists turn to the standard of living for measurement. Most developed countries have less than 10 infant deaths per year per 1,000 live births. They have a life expectancy of over 75 years. One such example is Qatar. It has one of the highest per capita incomes in the world at $88,000, but it is not considered developed due to vast income inequality and lack of educational opportunities for citizens. The United Nations HDI ranks countries on 3 parameters, namely literacy rate, access to education, and access to healthcare. The countries are given a score between 0 and 1 based on these 3 parameters. A country with an HDI index over 0.8 is generally considered developed. According to the latest data, India's score is 0.633 and it stands at 132nd place out of 192 countries ranked. According to the International Monetary Fund, Australia, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Singapore, and Taiwan can be categorized as developed countries. The list of emerging or developing economies includes names like China, India, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam.
The nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
According to a recent RBI article, India will have to grow at a rate of 7.6% per year for the next 25 years to attain the coveted status of a developed country by 2047. Well, that's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into our website business-standard.com. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.